Is it only DDR5 9000 on the 24 gigabyte sticks? If so, it's probably still going to be slower than A-Die, because A-Die has tighter timings. So they admitted that it was going to be slower than Rocketlake and the 7800X 3D. You know what the interesting thing is about Intel and AMD, actually? I don't think they even know how their own products work. Literally, honestly. Because, so, do you remember when the 9950X came out on launch and I did all my benchmarks? I finished all my benchmarks, and then Hub did that dumb shit with the 34% Windows Update fucking nonsense. I'm like, right? So that there was that. I redid all my benchmarks on the same Windows that Steve at Hub used. Zero fucking difference, right? So I'm like, okay, he fucked something up, right? But then AMD came out with a statement like later that week saying that the new Agisa updates would fix like inter CCX latency or something like that. And there would be like an improvement of up to 5% or something like that. AMD themselves came out with a statement that said that. Remember? So I update the Agisa and try again and redo my benchmarks. See, down to the FPS, there was zero fucking difference. Zero. So I think Zen 5 had like 2 Agisa updates and like 2 Windows updates with the scheduler and the prefetch cache and whatever the hell they were talking about. And AMD themselves were talking about how this is going to improve performance of Zen 5. And I tested every single iteration from launch day to now, and the FPS that I got was exactly the same, which tells me that when you max overclock a platform, it overrides all this Windows update shit that they keep going on about. It's similar to Intel microcode updates, right? Intel microcode can be like, we fixed this, and this. But if you max tune your system from day one, none of those microcode updates would have done anything. It's the exact same kind of concept, right? The moral of the story here, why would AMD come out and say that Windows updates would help their CPUs if they knew that if they max tuned them, it wouldn't make a difference? Is it because I'm tuning the latency down so far when you do it manually that it overrides the scheduling problems that they have? Only thing I can think of. When Intel says it's slower than a 14900K, like what memory speed did they use? What overclocks did they use? So one of two things is going to happen here. If they're saying it's slower, it's probably going to be slower with a max overclock as well. But it's either going to be like on par after a max OC, or it's going to be way slower. So the reason why I bring that up is because if they use the latest Intel microcode on a 14900K, this CPU might have been throttling down to like 5.2 in some of those games. Just from how the boost behavior works on the new microcodes without a max tune, right? So the 14900K might be like significantly faster. That's a fear that I have. It's a theory, right? But when you actually max tune them and you do a 6 gigahertz all core with DDR5 8000, I think the 285K is gonna be. I think it's gonna be farther behind than people think on the 8P cores. I don't care about the E cores. In gaming, on the 8P cores is what I'm talking about, right? Intel APO is enabled. Oh, so yeah, so this is what I'm talking about, right? So they're so 100% they don't know what the hell. So okay, Man, this is a whole separate video that I have to go over, but overclocking is definitely dead, and we've kind of transitioned into total system tuning, which is the PC optimization course that I made. It's not just overclocking, man. It's Windows. It's how to configure your fucking scheduler. It's how to configure your E-cores and all that shit. Because so they had to use Intel APO here, because what APO does is basically disables your E-cores in Windows or parks them when you launch a game, right? If it's on the whitelist. I bet you it would have done better. Like the gaming performance. So I don't know about the architecture itself, but if you disable the E-cores, do the P-cores get the cache like they do on Raptor Lake and Alder Lake? Well, if they do, disabling the E-cores in the BIOS would have made this perform better instead of the APO shit, because the APO just parks them. It doesn't disable them and give the cache over to the P-cores, right? Is it only DDR5 9000 on the 24 gigabyte sticks? If so, it's probably still going to be slower than ADI, because ADI has tighter timings. So you're probably still better off doing like, that's another thing I have to test as well. All these hardware bros that are like DDR5 10,000, probably still slower than 8,000 ADI with tighter timings. You know what I'm saying? So maybe 8200 with ADI would be the sweet spot, because that's kind of where they max out for the most part on 14900Ks, right? Let's say the 285K, let's say this is going to be a great platform to test this on. Let's say you have 285K, and let's say it's like 5% faster magically. Let's say it is the fastest. Okay, it's the fastest. Now we need to find out the memory subsystem, right? 8000 ADI or 9500 MDI. Well, what if this one's faster? Well, now we don't need Apex boards anymore. It doesn't matter. The gamer gives a shit about what's the fastest, not about this arbitrary megahertz number. What's the fastest? What, maybe now we can use this on a tough board or maybe a Strix board. Now you don't need Apexes anymore because ADI with the tighter timings is still faster than this MDI shit, right? I don't even use MDI in my builds, man. I'll put it this way. Let's say Metaphor or Mutex, fucking Huskers. Let's say a COD streamer DMs me and they're like, "What's the scoop with the new CPU?" I'm like, "It's not as fast." They they have the information that they need from that one sentence. It's like, not as fast. Don't care. That's gamers. Right? That's the gaming side of it. You ask what's his face here? DDR5 10 million chiplets. You can overclock the different fabrics of the different chiplets. You can overclock the NPU chip, apparently. Like some weird ass shit. Like there's like 20 things to tweak with no goal, which is cool, but this is an entirely different section of people. That doesn't mean I'm not interested in tweaking. I do like tweaking. It's fun sometimes. Like, oh yeah. My perspective is more like, I wonder what Intel did here, kind of thing, right? Like, I want to see what this does. I want to see what that does, and it lets me do my job better too, right? What does overclocking the NPU chip do? Let's find out. That's good content too, right? But trust me, bro, I would much rather be teabagging shitties and holding down W. Much more. The RAMs, people have to stop with this RAM speed shit, man. RAM speed doesn't matter. Again, we have to, man, nobody asks themselves what's the goal. RAM speed. Always think of the question in the perspective of a professional gamer, right? Is if I do DDR5 20,000, will that make the 285K faster than a 1490 or 100K? If the answer is no, then the gamer doesn't care. Oh, okay, it's not faster. It's like, why does nobody care about the Ryzen APUs that can do DDR5 9000? Because the platform is not faster. That CPU is not the 7800 X3D does 6000. Like, people have to stop with this RAM speed shit, man. It doesn't matter. The architecture of the CPU is what matters, not the RAM speed. Who fucking cares? If RAM speed equals no, not faster, don't care about the RAM speed. But the hardware bros will be like, oh my god, Gear 2 10,000. All right. That's not how overclocking works. The temperature of the architecture, I don't want to say has nothing to do with the overclocking headroom, but it has nothing to do with the overclocking headroom. It's not how it works. If you bought the course, you'd understand that when you went to the voltage sweet spot and core tuning sweet spot section. Remember Zen 2? You would hit like, it was like, what was it back in Zen 2? It was like 4 gigahertz was like 1.25 volts or something. And then 4.1 gigahertz was like 1.35 volts. Temperatures were fine. But you're past the efficiency of the silicon. The temperature itself has, like, yeah, you have 10 Celsius to push it farther, but if you're here already on that silicon graph, temperature's not going to save you, man. It's nothing to do with it. Anyone that says 10 Celsius cooler means more overclocking headroom, why would Intel give you more overclocking headroom and show you graphs? What's the goal? There you go. What's the goal? What would be in Intel's goal giving you more overclocking headroom? Yeah. That's my prediction for the 285K. I think it might be significantly slower in gaming. Not workstation. This is just the 8P cores. I think it might be significantly slower. Does it have hyperthreading? Was that ever a thing? Was that confirmed or not? It does have hyperthreading, right? So that whole fucking rumor was wrong? 285K. Do they have it listed? They do. Total threads. Oh, it doesn't have hyperthreading. Okay, yeah, it's gonna be fucking way slower. Yeah, that's bad, dude. This is gonna be a hard pass. This is literally just a tweaker's chip, dude. It's for fun. If you do pick this, wait for my benchmarks, obviously. But if you do pick this thing up, I'll find some use case for it. Like, I'll test the NPU stuff, the single PC streaming. It does have more CPU lanes this gen. Like, I'll test all that stuff out. I'll find a use. There's always some use case for some random ass product, and I'll find a good use case for it. But for a sheer gaming box, who cares? I don't think it's gonna be it, man. Latency doesn't matter. Zen 5, quote unquote, had higher latency too, and that thing completely annihilated the Zen 4. Zen 5 had like 20% more latency or some crazy shit. Still annihilated Zen 4. Like 20% faster in the lows too. It doesn't matter. I'm not worried about that shit. What was that picture going around? This thing. Remember when this thing was going around? And then this picture came up and it's like, oh my god, the Zen 5 latency. Right? Meanwhile, I do my benchmarks and it's like 20% faster across the board in the lows and everything, and in Windows snappiness. I'm like, so why do you guys give a shit about this when the game is telling me that it's performing like this? I think a lot of people think that stuff correlates to FPS. Exactly. They think they do. That's how you know they don't test anything. That's how you know they're forum bros and they're hardware bros. Because they see that latency graph and they see CU dim 10 million and they're like, FPS is going to be higher. Hardware is not that simple. Bigger numbers does not mean better. The days of bigger number equals better is way behind us, dude. Way behind us. Yeah, my prediction, 285K is going to be way slower than a 14900K. I already made that prediction a year ago, though. The 14900K, sorry, 13900K and 14900K. The Raptor Lakes, you're done for the next. It's 10-year chip, man. Same with the 10900K, 10-year chip.